Hello, beautiful friends. Thank you for being here as always. I hope you're all doing well. Just want to share some things that have really been coming up for me, and it's been really amazing revelations. And feel free to share any of your revelations if you feel like you should, because I feel like this was definitely a powerful weekend. Halloween, big solar flares, just high energy in general. So, before I get into this, and this is going to be very empowering, I feel it's been very empowering for me. I just want to share that we are having another mass meditation on this channel on 11/11 at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll post more about that. But I just wanted to let you guys know so you can get ready for that because that is also, of course, going to be such a powerful day and even more powerful than the last one. And the last one was so huge. Like I said, there were many other mass meditations, not just the one that we held that day, and it was just amazing. You can see the ripples, and I almost want to touch on that for a moment, just in case anybody isn't seeing some of the amazing sovereignty that is beginning to rise in the world. And it's just the beginning. I just want to remind you that it really is just the beginning. But the fact that we're even starting to see these waves of resistance. And really, I don't even want to say it's resistance because I honestly feel like more and more we being we being um, you know genuine human beings that just want to live our lives and be free and let others be free, we are the majority. And I don't want to get too deep into that because that's not really what this is about, but it is important. And I feel like all these meditations, they really have such a huge effect on the collective consciousness. And I really do believe that the meditation we had and the other ones, all the time, every time they happen, but especially that day, really had a huge ripple effect. I really do believe that, and I really think that we're seeing that deliverance and that freedom. So, on that note, this new one is going to be for unity, real unity, not that inverted, conformist, terrible unity that, politicians talk about. Real unity, because we are shifting and this is going to be intense and it's going to be so worth it. And the more we can truly come together, because that's really who we are in the heart, and realize that we are not separate, the sooner we can realize that, the more profound this is going to be. And I really believe that. And I'm not going to go too into that much right now, but really feel into that because that is some amazing food for the soul, food for the heart when we remember. Because as sovereign individuals, and this is what unity really means to me, is sovereign individuals coming together. It's not this everyone has to be the same. It's the complete opposite of that. It's we all stand in our own unique, authentic light together. And we are invincible. That is the force to be reckoned with. When we can do that, when we come together, we are literally invincible. I feel like I have crazy eyes right now, but it really is so true. I mean, I hope you could feel that. I feel that in my soul. So, all of that being said, I want to dive into it because it's all relevant. And another thing too, if you didn't see, I did come out with a course on really enhancing your inner guidance and your clairvoyant abilities and your unique special gifts that are innate within you, learning to activate it. All of my tips and techniques and tricks, I'll put that link below in case you didn't see, because that's been really amazing. And I'm building a community on Slack, and I'm really loving this platform. It's really nice to kind of have that. I don't know if I want to say privacy, but um, yeah, privacy. Not because it's secret per se, but just because just kind of staying out. Because that's the thing with these platforms, like these big platforms, is it's like I feel like I'm renting them, and you never know with these. So this community or subscribing to my newsletter is a great way to stay in touch regardless of whatever happens, whether even little things like just getting shadow banned and stuff. It happens a lot, especially to healers and spiritual people. It's been happening a lot lately. So okay, let's get into it because this is going to be really awesome. I can already feel it. This has been a big one for me, you know. And of course, it's one of those things that I've known, but you just know deeper and deeper and deeper. And this one really hit me. And this is the one, this is like the core of everything, I feel like. And it's coming back to presence, unconditional presence in the self. I really want to dive deep into this because although it's simple, I think this is really going to be the theme. I know it is for me, and probably for many of us, is coming back to that presence. Because conditional presence, that's like what we've been living in, is literally insanity. I mean, it's like I've had enough of it. It's literally crazy. It'll drive you crazy. And it's really that ego. And again, I'm going to really dive deep into what this is, what I'm talking about. And again, remember, this is just my journey. This is just my experience. So take that how you will. So when I say conditional presence, it's that energy, and this is again that ego, that energy of, well, I'll be present when I have this. Or, I'll be here now when I feel happy, or when I have this job, or when I have this money. I'll be present once this happens. And that's such an insidious trap if you really look at it, because that will constantly keep you from being present. Being present unconditionally, honing in on that unconditional love, I truly believe, as subtle as this may be, I really believe this is our greatest power, is that presence. Because that's really that presence is like that 0 point. It's that acknowledging that you already are everything. You already are infinite. You already have everything within you. It's really coming back to who we are. It's really a matter of honestly not being so sucked into the physical world, because I really am starting to think and feel that this physical world is more than anything meant to reflect back to us where we're not present, or reflect back to us our energy. It's like a feedback system almost. And it's fun and we can experience it. It's like I said before, we are in this world, but we are not of it. So that's kind of what I'm really getting into. And this, again, this is just, I've been experiencing this so strong. It's like I can't even look away anymore. I can't, there's no running away from yourself, especially now, because this is our destiny. And this is how you really access your greatest potential. So many people wondering maybe, where's my community? Where's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And for me, I think it really comes down to that presence. Anything that you are desiring in the physical world, I would interpret that, this is just how I live, as like it's like a dream, because this physical world is the dream. So let's just get to actually to like the real core of this first. There's so many things coming up. This is the real core. And this is something we have to remind ourselves again and again and again. My camera cut out, but let's go right back into it. This is the thing that we have to remember again and again and again, is that we are not separate from our creator. When we came into earth, we had this we were born into this Maya, this illusion, this physical world, that we were separate from God. And you can blame it on the mind control, you can blame it on whatever. Down the line, we really believed this. It's so embedded deep. We really started to, again, just we as humanity, believed that we are separate from God, separate from all that is, separate from the Creator, separate from. When I say God, I'm not talking about religious, like anything. I'm talking about, there's no words for it. I'm talking about, it's the core of everything. When you align with God, it's literally everything you could ever want and need. Like, that's what it feels like. I hope that makes sense. Really, I can't even put it in words, but that's what I mean. It's that love, it's that unconditional love and creativity, source, power of everything. That's what it feels like. It feels like unconditional love. It's not like God is this egotistical thing, but that's like that religion, a lot of that programming. I don't know why I threw that in there. I just feel like it's important as a reminder, coming back to, because that's that source that we are literally never separate from. And honestly, when you really know this, you remember this and you're present with this, and you can really feel it, you know that this is everything you need. And you know that all these other things are just an illusion. And I'm not saying these physical things are even bad, because I feel like that's also a really dualistic way of looking at it. It's more like it's just not the point. The physical stuff is not the point. It's really about this connection and this co creation with God. And this is where it gets really deep. And this is just there's so much to talk about in this. So I hope you can, like, kind of kick back and just roll with it, because I feel like this is important. And it just, for me, it has been. Because this is another big part of this is like we forgot that we are not separate from God. So a lot of these programs and these belief systems that are coming up now, they've been coming up, but we're really seeing them now, whether it's lack, scarcity, worry, tension, all of these things. Like I said in my last video, these things are coming up so that we can really see the areas in which we are not free. So on top of that, how do we begin to really free ourselves? And like I said, coming back to presence, coming back to that connection, coming back to that knowingness that you are not separate from God. You are not separate from everything you want and need. You are not separate from all you are already. Everything you could possibly dream of, your highest love, you are not separate from that. And a lot of it comes back to experiencing it within. Because when you can really hold that within, you will see it naturally reflected to you physically. And it won't even really matter, because you're not going to be so attached to this physical world. It's just the physical world is like the cherry on top. Because this is who you really are. You are almost entirely invisible. If you think about it, this ties right in. As who we are pretty much entirely invisible. I mean, we have these physical bodies, we have these vessels, these temporary bodies. But our souls, our consciousness, our personality, our energy, our love, none of that is physical. And that's way more real than this physical vessel. And I'm going to talk about that more later, because I think that's important too. Because there's so much fear around death, and there really need not be. Because we are mostly not physical. We are literally almost entirely invisible. The more you really look at people and you remember that the reason you love them is almost entirely invisible. It has very little to do with their body and how they look, and everything to do really with who they are. Otherwise we could just love robots. We just have stuffed animals. It's not about the physical thing. It's about the energy within. We know this. It's just when you really remember this and throw it out there, I feel like it's so powerful. Because again, that ties into telepathy and everything. That ties into communicating without physicality. That's getting into that. I know this is all over the place, but it has to be. So going back to what I was saying, we've forgotten that we're not separate from the creator. So this is where the ego comes in. And this is just how I see it. The ego, and this is this is also so good. I'm so grateful for this information that's come in for me. And again, I hope it's helpful for you. It's kind of like we have a split personality. Like, that's a way to think about it. Using words as a signpost. And we all have this. Every single one of us really does have like this total split personality. And it's basically the ego and the higher self. And you could go in maybe more sub-personalities, but I'm not going to go there. Let's just keep it simple. So we all know what the ego is. And we all know what the higher self is. Here's my relationship with the ego. Lately, I've honestly, I will, in a lot of times in meditation, basically try to sit down and have a civil conversation with my ego. And because I don't see the ego as like some evil thing. Because if you think about it, even though the ego can be nasty, but the ego isn't just this like crazy narcissistic thing. Obviously that's part of it, but if you think about the energy we've been in, the world we've been in, this matrix we've been in, the ego, we've been so reliant on the ego to keep us physically safe from insanity. And if you think about why you even have an ego, it comes from a lot of trauma from your childhood especially. A lot of it probably has been even passed on from parents, um, and stuff like that. But we don't even have to go into those details right now. I just want to demonstrate how the ego, it's kind of tricky because it really thinks basically, to keep this simple, the ego is like a very adolescent child, or not even adolescent, it's like a toddler basically when it comes to the mind and consciousness. The ego is like a toddler. The ego was not meant to be in the driver's seat. The ego has its purpose. It's a small purpose for survival. But most people, many of us, if not all of us, we've been in such a state of survival for so long. The ego has literally been driving. And the ego has literally been losing its shit constantly because it's not supposed to be the one driving. And it's a control freak, and it's constantly thinking everything is a threat. Every single thing is a threat. It's just because of a lot of it with this mind control and this inversion and this, just mental insanity that we've been in, and now we're coming out of it. So now we're seeing it. So let me just get to my real point here. I have conversations with my ego, and I find this to be very helpful because you really can do this. You know, Basically letting my ego know, like, you don't have to be the driver anymore. Like, I'm back. Like, the higher self is back. Like, I'm ready to, like, you are safe. I hope this makes sense. It's hard to explain. But really, actually, just having a conversation with the ego like that, and just treating the ego like that, and observing the ego. Don't demonize the ego. That's not really advisable to me because then you're just polarizing that energy that's already crazy. Literally, I see the ego as like a 2-year-old child. You wouldn't scream at a 2-year-old child, like, why aren't you driving the car right? You would just explain. Like, that's how you want to talk to the ego. Like, it's literally like a, I don't even mean this condescendingly. It's just, that's that ego. That ego is a young part of the mind. Have compassion for your ego. Let it know that it's safe. It doesn't have to be in control anymore. The higher self is back. We are waking up. The ego can go back to where it's supposed to be now. Sometimes you have to pull the ego out, but very rarely. When the higher self is the one driving the car, so to speak. Because this is a game changer, and this is the next thing that goes right into it. It's so relevant, is that control. And this has to do with that presence as well, and not being separate from God. And I'm just going to put this in as simple terms as possible. What is happening right now in this awakening, it's so much, like, the core of it is so much coming back to your connection with God, coming back to complete faith. That's that co-creative harmony that I think a lot of us are seeking. And I guess to really demonstrate that and make it more clear is, when you're trying to have an experience, any kind of experience, you're trying to experience happiness or joy or success or freedom or whatever the case may be, when you start feeling yourself having a lot of resistance and really just kicking and screaming, internally, that's that ego. When you're trying to force things, trying to control things, trying to judge things in the now moment, trying to say, like, this isn't good enough. I should be doing this. This isn't good enough. I'm not good enough. This will never be good enough. Just as an example, I hope this makes sense. Because, like I said before, and you find it in your own way, apply this to your own life and ponder upon this and feel into this, settle into this information. Because I think that's such a big thing. I've been having to let go of so much control I didn't even know I ever thought I had. Because we really don't have this control that the ego thinks it has. It's that ego that wants to control. This is the message, as simple as possible, is give it to God. Give it to that all-knowing power within you. Have faith and trust in that. That's presence. Being able to just be so deep in this moment, being able to literally release and relax this tension as deep as you can in every now moment, and just be present. Whether you're driving or brushing your teeth or listening to music or meditating or whatever you do, the more you can literally be present now. Not, well, I'll be present when I get here. I'll be present when this happens, then I'll be present. That's like such a slippery slope. And I feel like now more than ever, we are really being called to be so present. And that's our key to our salvation. That's our key to our sovereignty. And this is the funny thing, is it's actually can be very uncomfortable when it's like it's like you have to almost practice these muscles of being present, because that ego has been so strong. It's like when you're present, it's usually not long before you start hearing, like, or feeling, or however you experience this, that ego coming in, like, I should be doing this, or like, this isn't good enough, or like, it doesn't even have to have like words. Sometimes it's just that feeling, it's just that nagging, it's that uh, anxiety. It's like that anxiety of, just this infinite, I should be doing something else rather than just being present. And this is a funny thing, it's like there's so much trust and faith involved. I think that's why we have to practice it so much. Because again, we've been so caught up in the ego's way of doing things, and the ego never trusts. The ego never feels safe. It's the ego never wants to surrender. The ego's constantly just like tight, balled up, ready, alert, And the higher self is really wanting us to, this is just my experience again, flow and trust the surprises that come up in your life. Trust that there's a deeper meaning. Trust that there's a deeper purpose. Trust that you are right where you need to be and everything is right on schedule. Because the more you lean into that, the more things actually are going to work out for you physically. And that's the funny thing, is because when you achieve this, you're not even really worried about the physical anymore, but it just works out. Because it's all about what's going on in here. This really ties into our history as well. Again, this is just my understanding. I say that a lot because I really don't want to tell people what to think. This is just my experience. Atlantis, a lot of the things that happen in Atlantis are coming up so heavy right now, and there's a reason for that. And the amount of parallels, if you really remember, is ridiculous, but it's divine. So of course, it's very synchronistic. A big reason Atlantis fell was because of the energy, humanity, kind of being so arrogant. It's that ego and thinking that they no longer need God, that they'll just do it on their own. So it's like we've been seeing what happens to humanity, to Earth, when we just try to do everything on our own and we just act like God doesn't exist, or like God isn't completely connected with us, completely assisting us. The source of all our creativity and inspiration and love and everything we need and everything we want. I hope you can see the connection here, because this is what I feel we are really atoning for right now. As, you know, beings that are choosing this path of ascension right now on earth, and also leading the way for all, coming back to this surrender beingness to God, to presence, to knowing that all is as it should be, to knowing that we are creator beings. We don't really create from the ego, though. We don't create from this illusion of being separate from God. We really create from being in harmony and alignment with God. We could never truly be separate from God, but when we are in this illusion that we are separate from God, that's when we hurt ourselves, and that's when we suffer. And I want to give you this analogy that's so beautiful, because I had to ask my spirit for an analogy to try to describe what I've been feeling. And what I'm seeing is, it's almost like if you can imagine a really salty ocean, that it's like so salty you just float. It's just like naturally you just float. And imagine not knowing you float, you forgot for some reason, you float and you're in the deep end, because we're in the deep end, friends. We're far from the shallows now. So you're kicking and you're just like fighting, and you keep sinking and going under, and it's hard to breathe, and you're trying to swim, and you're just kicking and flailing around, and finally you surrender and you just stop, and you just let go, and you just float right to the top effortlessly. That's like the analogy I'm getting for letting go of that control and that ego and that anxiety, that worry that really does nothing. And we know this, but we forget. We have to remind ourselves. That's the reprogramming, is the constant reminders and practicing and developing those inner muscles. That's really what it feels like, because then all of a sudden you're floating, and you're like, wow, really? Really, I can just do this. I can just do this. Like, that's how I've been feeling. Completely surrendering, living in such a state of surrender, in such a state of trust, that is so freeing, and I'm floating. But it's also, I've always been a very mental person, so it's just like, wow, I can actually do this. Like, I can just do this. I can just be. I don't have to constantly micromanage like all of these random things, these thoughts, or these whatevers. Again, that control that the ego wants to control. I think this is been happening for a long time, but it just feels like it's really ramping up right now. Like, we're really being asked to be so present, because that really is the key, that really is the ticket, and it's so simple. Just being present with your breath, being present with your thoughts, being present with your feelings, being present with whatever is happening around you. Just being really present with it, because literally you're getting everything you need in every present moment. But we're so conditioned to constantly be um, like, these thoughts and these distractions are siphoning our energy away, or this ego trying to hold on and so tight and flail around and kick and scream, when really, if we just let go, we're fine. It's almost like a trust exercise with the universe, with God, And I've been feeling that for a while, but I feel it really strong right now, and I feel like that's really my only main goal, because I see more and more. Anytime I try to force anything, anytime I try to control anything, it's like ridiculous. Like, it usually doesn't work out, and I just feel like I just cause so much more resistance and suffering than need be. Then when if I just flow and I don't have any attachments, it's like everything is like on point. I noticed that very clearly, and so I just want to share that. I just want to share that with you guys. I hope that's helpful. I know this is kind of a lot, but there's so much. Even though it's so simple, I really want to make it clear and relatable, because this is like a huge game changer. It has been for me. And I'm really excited to keep rolling with this, keep flowing with this, keep coming back to that presence, keep observing as it comes up, all the ways that I've not been present, all the ways that I've constantly. It's like these programs run subconsciously, a lot of them. So it's like when you really are present, that's one of the reasons it can be uncomfortable, in my opinion, is because that's when you start to see very clearly, instead of just automatically going into these programs of whatever, blame, guilt, anger, sadness, anxiety, worry. We're so programmed to worry, 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 worry. I know, I do. I worry all the time, and it's like, why am I worrying? God has got my back. I know this, but I have to remind myself, and I have to be compassionate with myself, because we've just been through so much. We really have, not just in this life, but in many lives. So this is very meaningful work, because the more you can walk with that presence, and whatever you're trying to experience or create in your reality, this presence has it. You have the key. The key is the presence. The key is not outside of you, it's all within. That's what this is really all about. It's coming back within. Why do if you have these burning desires, whatever it may be, we all have these. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just when we get caught in the physical attachment, we're going to suffer because we're looking outside of ourselves when it's all within. That can sound cliche, but it's so true. That's why I have to, really go dive deep into this, because I've been diving deep into it myself. Whatever you're desiring is already within you, even if it's a physical thing. Why? Why do you want these physical things? How would it make you feel? How can you begin to cultivate that feeling now within yourself? It's inside of you. You can't access it. And again, when you really understand that you are not separate from God, and you just simplify that, keep your focus on that, all of these illusions will literally dissolve. They'll literally fall away, because you realize you have everything you need within you. It's your connection to God that is everything. And that's what's going to bless you energetically and in turn physically. Because again, I see the physical world very much as a reflection. It's not the prime reality. There's our internal realities is more who we really are. And again, I suppose I'll kind of end on this note. We are almost entirely invisible. Don't forget that. It's so easy, it's so simple, it's so obvious. I feel like even if you were like an atheist, obviously we're mostly invisible. You don't see my love, you don't see my thoughts, you don't see my emotions. You don't see my personality, you don't see my energy, my soul, and all the things that I am, and all the things I'm working on, all the things I am. But that doesn't mean that they're not real, and it's way more real than this physical, because this is eternal. When you lose your physical vessel, I just have to say this, you don't end. I know that for a fact. I've been blessed to have seen this, and there's many who have seen this. There's many who who've actually experienced almost dying and coming back. I've never experienced that myself, so I can't speak on that, but I know people who have. But I've been able to. So this really is the thing I'll end on, because I feel like this is so beautiful as well when we remember this, because life is eternal. You never die. You you literally never die. There's nothing to worry about with that. I mean, you lose your physical vessel, and we're constantly dying and being reborn, but you're almost entirely invisible. Your pets are almost entirely invisible. Otherwise, you can just have stuffed animals. You love them for their consciousness, for who they are, for their love, for their purity, for their spirit. And same with humans. So just a reminder, the more you remember that, and the more you tune into that instead of the physicality, the less you will have this physical attachment, the less you will have this fear of loss, or this fear of death. I'm not saying, these things aren't going to still be intense, but I just want to assure you, I don't know why, but I felt like that was important, because life really is eternal. 100%. The people you love, whether they're here physically or not, are almost entire. They've always been invisible, who they really are, and they're always with you. And this even ties into telepathy. When you really start to hone in on this and feel this, you feel Think of someone you love. Maybe they're beautiful, whatever, but think about how they make you feel, their essence, their energetic signature, their spirit, their love. That's who they really are. And that is eternal. And when you tune into that, you can very clearly have that communication. And I suppose I'll leave it at that for now. But I hope that's helpful. I hope that's encouraging. Because it really is true. That is the key to telepathy and all kinds of things. We are all connected within. And we're going to find this more and more. That's what it's all about right now. For me, at least, it's all going back within. And every time I find myself seduced by any physical thing, I know I have to reel it back in. More and more and more than ever. That's what my soul is calling me to do for, my greatest self right now. So I hope this is helpful. It's simple. And the truth often is simple. These beautiful spiritual principles are often, if not always, very simple. And sometimes the simplest things, it doesn't mean they're easy. But when you really remind yourself and you keep coming back, it doesn't have to be so hard. And even if it is, it's always worth it. It really is. Because if you even think now, look back on the hardest points of your life, how they really strengthened you and wizened you and got you to where you are now. Which, let me just say, thank you for being here again. God bless you. Thank you for loving yourself. You wouldn't be here if not. You're amazing. You're amazing. And you are one with God. We are all one with God. We could never be separate. The more we really, really, really remember this oneness, this inevitable, infinite, innate connection to God, we have everything we need. What would there be to be afraid of? Really anchor into that. That's who we really are. That's where our infinite abundance, our infinite joy, our infinite love, our infinite harmony, our infinite wealth, our infinite health, our infinite freedom and sovereignty and liberation, it's all within. And the external world is an amazing mirror to show us where we're not being present. The more you can bring all those things you desire into your presence now, the more they will naturally occur physically. But again, it won't even be about that because you will have already internally mastered it. The physical is literally just like the cherry on top. So again, I hope this is helpful. I love you all so, so, so much. Thank you for listening. I know this is kind of long, but I just really wanted to dive deep into it. I feel like it's important, and it really is just the beginning. I hope to see you all on 11/11. It's going to be awesome. So amazing. So grateful for everything. And if you were interested in that course on activating your inner clairvoyance, psychic abilities, extrasensory abilities, whatever you want to call it, everyone has their own unique spiritual gifts. And I've put a lot of love into this. I've got some really good feedback on it. I'll link that below. And I also want to remind you that if for some reason it's financially unavailable to you, email me and I will work something out for you because it's not about money. It's about really connecting. It's about we're really starting to connect with each other now. I feel like that's kind of the next phase we're going into. Not rushing it, not forcing it, not controlling it, but it's happening naturally. And big things are happening. Lots of deliverance, lots of exciting awakenings right now. So I could go on forever. I love you all. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful, blessed night. So much love. Thank you.